Something deeply disturbing, and frankly unbelievable, is unfolding in Kaduna State, and it's the kind of story that leaves you shaking your head in disbelief while your heart breaks for innocent families caught in the middle of chaos. What began as a peaceful Sunday morning of worship has now spiraled into a nightmare filled with fear, confusion, outrageous demands, and unanswered questions. On Sunday, January 18, 2026, residents of Kurmin Wali community in Kajuru Local Government Area woke up expecting another quiet day of prayer and fellowship. Churches were filled. Families gathered. Children sat beside their parents. Hymns echoed through the small community. No one imagined that within minutes, terror would explode across multiple church buildings simultaneously. According to survivors, armed men stormed several churches at once, moving with terrifying coordination and confidence. They carried rifles openly and shouted commands, warning worshippers not to run. Panic erupted instantly. People froze. Some tried to hide. Others clutched their children. But the attackers were already in control. They began rounding up worshippers from different churches, forcing them to march from one building to another, gathering a massive crowd of frightened civilians before herding them toward the surrounding forest. By the time the dust settled, about 177 worshippers had been dragged away into captivity. Thankfully, 11 later managed to escape, but that still leaves 166 men, women, and children trapped somewhere in the bush, uncertain of what tomorrow holds. As news of the abduction spread, the entire community plunged into shock and fear. Phones rang non-stop. Families searched desperately for loved ones. Churches cried out for help. But what made matters even worse was the confusion that followed. On Monday, the Kaduna State government, the police command, and even the chairman of Kajuru Local Government initially denied that any abduction had taken place. That denial sparked outrage. Residents felt abandoned. Church leaders expressed anger. The northern chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria stepped in to confirm that the kidnappings were real, intensifying public pressure and emotional trauma within the community. And just when people thought the situation couldn't get more painful, a shocking twist emerged. Instead of immediately demanding ransom for the kidnapped worshippers, the abductors sent an unexpected message to community negotiators. They claimed that during recent military operations in the area, 17 of their motorcycles went missing, and they accused villagers of stealing or tampering with them. The demand. Each motorcycle, they said, is worth 1.7 million Nigerian nairas. Before any discussion about ransom can even begin, the community must first pay 28.9 million Nigerian nairas to replace the bikes. Let that sink in for a moment. Not ransom for human lives yet, but payment for motorcycles allegedly lost by criminals. Community members were stunned, angry, confused, frustrated. Many families are already struggling to survive, and now they are being asked to raise nearly 30 million naira just to unlock the next phase of negotiations for their loved ones' freedom. Local villagers explained that this situation is even more painful because the community is still recovering from another kidnapping attack that happened just 1 week earlier, on January 11th. During that earlier incident, several residents were abducted and later released only after the community painfully raised and delivered 23 million Nigerian nairas as ransom. Some villagers reportedly carried sacks of cash deep into the forest following the kidnappers' instructions. That trauma is still fresh, yet now, the same community is facing another massive financial and emotional blow. Village leaders confirmed that the abductors contacted a negotiator and insisted that all missing motorcycles must either be returned or paid for before any further conversation about the hostages can continue. They even accused villagers of removing parts from some of the bikes, including spark plugs and carburetors. Whether these claims are true or not remains unclear, but what is clear is that the community is trapped in a cruel waiting game. Fear has since taken over Kurmin Wali. Many residents have fled to nearby villages. Schools are closed. Farms have been abandoned. Shops are locked. Streets are quiet. Those who remain behind speak in whispers and move cautiously, unsure of what might happen next. Daily life has practically come to a halt. Families of the abducted are emotionally exhausted. Some openly question why government response appears slow or silent. Others fear that delays may worsen the situation for their loved ones trapped in the forest. Anxiety hangs heavily in the air. Survivors who escaped the attack described how the government surrounded church buildings, threatened to shoot anyone who attempted to flee, and marched worshippers together into the bush. One church secretary said over 50 members from his denomination alone were captured before being forced into the forest. Another church leader confirmed that the attackers stormed their congregation shouting and immediately began seizing people without mercy. Among those initially taken was even the village head himself. He later managed to escape along with a few others, but members of his family remain in captivity. Stories like this only deepen the emotional pain gripping the community. As public anger grew, Kaduna State Governor, Uba Sani, visited Kurmin Wali under heavy security. He met with residents, offered condolences, and assured the community that security agencies were working with the military, intelligence services, and national security offices to secure the release of the abducted worshippers. He emphasized that the government's actions are guided by concern for human lives, not politics or public image. Yet for families waiting for their loved ones to return home, every hour feels like a lifetime. With ransom negotiations stalled over motorcycles, uncertainty hangs dangerously in the balance. Nobody knows how long this standoff will last, how much more money may be demanded later, or what conditions the hostages are enduring. What remains painfully clear is that innocent worshippers are paying the price for a cycle of violence they never invited. This story raises serious questions about security, accountability, community protection, and the growing boldness of criminal networks. It also reminds us how fragile peace can be when vulnerable communities are left exposed. The big question now is, how long will this nightmare continue, and who will step up fast enough to bring these innocent people home safely?